This video is exploring some of the issues and disasters and discoveries I've had with painting halos on icons. I use a pair of compasses with a pen in it, and I load the pen with pigment. And then it is applied to the icon. I have a ruler that has a bit of a part hole in it at the end, and I line that up with the center of where the halo will be, and I put some pads underneath it to protect the paint, and I clamp it onto the icon so that that hole is a constant. And as you can see in this disaster, it's pretty important to have that constant point. What I have done over many years is to do this operation with the icon laying flat. One of the problems with getting the paint to flow from this pen is that it really needs to be quite sort of wet at the point, otherwise it doesn't start. And that's what's happening here. There's a bit of a blob on the piece of paper that I put there to protect the icon, trying to pick up some on the tip, and there it worked there. But you can see that lumpy bit at the top of the circle, of the halo, of the nimbus, and that will need to be fixed. I did have the foresight to do the background for this icon a few hours before doing the halo, and so I still have a batch of that mixed pigment, because it's a mixture of two different pigments, so that I can use that batch for doing any touch-up. What I'm doing here is trying to dry up the very wet blob with a dry brush. So I've taken the ruler off, so I no longer have the center, and here is poor old Barnabas. Now again, I'm doing it lying flat, get part way around, and all the pigment has come out of the pen, and now I've reloaded the pen, and I'm coming back and I'm putting my hand underneath so that it doesn't drop, but it drops a great splodge. Keep calm, and that's splodgy too. So there are two horrendous problems here. One is a great blob of pigment on the shoulder of the saint, and another blob as part of the halo. So with a dry brush, I'm attempting to pick it up, to wash it off. I'm actually wetting this brush in order to wipe this horrible mess off. It's working to quite a good extent to dry this with a dry brush here, not trying to wipe it off, but just sopping up the excess pigment. Again, I had kept a batch of the background so that the repair can happen. Taking off the ruler and the other bits and pieces. That's got a whole lot of paint on there that I don't want to spill. You can still see the problems. So with the background paint, we made a kind of okay repair. Even now, when I look at this icon, which was painted some months ago, I can see that I had a problem. Even the fact that, see, on this near side of the halo, it is slightly thicker than the other side. It's okay, it's pretty neat as far as halos go, but you can see that it's not quite even all the way round. So then I decided to try something different. Instead of doing the halo lying down, I've left it on the easel at an angle. And look, that's how it's supposed to happen. Bing! Easy. So simple. All correct. One go. No repairs needed. Okay, now for the rest of this video, I will be doing a fairly adventurous job with the pair of compasses, but I'm also preparing the halo for gilding. And the gilding in this instance is the Kollner Instacol method, and it involves applying a base to the surface to be gilded, and there are a number of different bases. One is clear. This one has yellow ochre in it as well. It means that if there are any blemishes in the gold, then the yellow underneath looks better than white. So this is a very high quality acrylic that acts as a seal for putting the gold on. A couple of methods of doing this. One of the things that I do is to dilute the base by 2 to 1. So 2 parts of water to 1 part of the base. And you can either put it on fairly dry, so fairly flat. The surface needs to be very smooth, but then the rest of the putting on this base can be put on fairly dry. What I'm doing in this instance is slightly different, and quite a number of iconographers do it this way. That is to pool it on. Can see that in fact the brush isn't touching the surface of the panel, it's just moving the base around the image. So it leaves quite a meniscus. And then a second coat is applied, same way. Just pooling it on. The main effect of doing it this way is that it gives the gilded section of the image a little bit of, I don't know, body depth or something. It's not as flat as the dry method. Now once this surface is in place, it certainly needs to dry for at least half an hour, and this method takes longer because it's wetter, but I left it for quite some time, and you can see here I've already applied the background, the blue background, and now I'm going to put in the stripe, the white border to the halo, and I had to find the exact center and line up that hole on my ruler, clamp it in place. Again, I've done it on the side, and how successful that is. Now for the next trick, because I wanted not only a white border but also just on the outside a red border, I was able, because there's a little screw adjustment on this pair of compasses, widened the radius just a tiny bit and loaded it with red paint, not as successfully as I might have. Not quite sure why it works better on the slope like this than it does down on the flat, but it gives a much more even tone. I guess it's the way that the gravity works, and also if there is a splotch, I suppose it'll fall all over the background, but it's much more successful. Well, that worked nicely, and now it's time to apply the gold. So I'm using, it's 23 karat transfer gold, and it's medium press, and the Kollner Instacol method does provide an activator. I don't use the activator, it's fiddly and time consuming. I just breathe on that base surface, and it's quick and it works perfectly beautifully. So that bit of humidity, bit of condensation on the surface of the base is all that's needed to attach the gold. Breathe, and once it's down it needs to stay, so I stick my thumb right there to steady the whole show, let it drop, and make sure that I'm keeping that piece steady with at least one finger or thumb and pressing with the other hand. Little repairs are all possible along the way. Ready to put down the final bit of gold, medium press, 23 karat, beautifully shiny. And then using a dry brush, absolutely dry, fluffy brush, cleaning away the bits. And having cleaned it away, we can see where the little gaps are, and we just press on the repairs. I think another time I might dare to try something a bit different. That is to put in those white and red stripes, or whatever colour that I'm putting around as the edge, to put it in after the gold goes down, because at a few points the gold has adhered to my beautiful lines and needed to be carefully scratched off, and in some points carefully painted over.